30 seconds. Maybe I can't count. But anyway, welcome everyone to Heninger Park Neighborhood's first virtual meeting. So this is a learning curve for me, that's for sure. And we have some wonderful guests. And I believe we're starting the meeting. Hopefully you can see the slide that says elections, city budget, and eviction moratorium. So that's several subjects, and I believe Daniel Soto is going to give the presentation. So welcome, Daniel.
Thank you.
So I think we're ready for that, for your presentation.
Okay, perfect. And just checking, how much time do I have tonight?
Margarita, do you know?
Daniel, you have until 7 o'clock, and that would include time for questions.
Okay,
and
perfect.
For the attendees on the call, there is a questions tab if you're interested in typing in your question, or you can raise your hand if you have a question following Mr. Soto's presentation. I also wanted to acknowledge Carla Juarez, who is also with the Heninger Park Neighborhood Association, and her and Janelle Hardy are a dynamite team trying to open doors to engage the community on some very, very important topics. So I think I said my piece, so go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Margarita. Hi, Carla. Good to see you. Yes, this meeting has been pulled together by a whole lot of people, and I have to give Carla credit for stepping up and forward and reminding us all that we need to talk about these important, timely subjects. So thank you, Carla.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Thanks.
All right, I'll go ahead and get started on my presentation. Thank you again for having me join your meeting tonight. I wanted to introduce and provide an overview on 3 different topics that some members of your neighborhood association brought forward. The first of which is elections, second is the city budget, and third is the city's eviction moratorium. And I'll go over these in that order. So our clerk of the council office, or our clerk of the council, is responsible for coordinating our local municipal elections. Typically, they follow our the general elections that the Secretary of State and the county's registrar of voters puts together. And specifically for the city of Santa Ana, the clerk of the council conducts candidate filings, issues and accepts nomination papers, coordinates city measures, ballot measures, publishes all legal notices, and ensures compliance with all campaign and conflict of interest filings with the with the Fair Political Practices Commission, or FPPC. For this year, we have our general municipal election, which coincides with the general election on November 3rd, 2020. And for the council wards, we currently have vacant seats, or we will have seats for wards 1, 3, and 5, and for the mayor. The current candidate filing period is now through August 6th, and that information is available on our city website. For transparency, our clerk of the council updates the candidate list daily. So what's different this year? Back in 2018, the city council transitioned the city to district-based or ward-based elections, meaning that the council members for each ward beginning in 2020 will be elected only by the electors or the voters that live in that ward. And in addition to that, the city council did approve some redistricting of our ward boundaries for wards 1 through 6. And this is a phased approach. For 2020, wards 1, 3, and 5 will be elected by district or by ward. And then in 2022, wards 2, 4, and 6 will be elected by district or by ward. And this is what our new ward map will look like. So the numbers have changed slightly. Some of the boundaries may look a little familiar, but the numbers and sequencing is slightly different. For more information, you can visit our Clerk of the Council page on our city website. The next topic is our city budget. At the July, go ahead.
Hey Daniel, this is Scott, and I just wanted to jump in just for a second, to welcome our attendees and to let our attendees in the meeting remind them that it's possible for them to use the raise hand function to ask questions during the meeting, because we're all kind of getting familiar with this platform. And so for those who are attending the neighborhood meeting, there is a little icon, the shape of a hand, that they can click on, which indicates that they have a question that they would like to ask. And so I just wanted to make sure that there weren't any questions that anybody had on this first part of your presentation before we moved on to the next part. That's all. And that goes for you, Janelle and Carla, you guys as well. If you guys have any questions for Daniel, now would be a really good time to ask him about the first part of his presentation. And I'm gonna silence my mic now.
Thank you, Scott. Did you have any questions, Carla, about the first part?
I did want to know if there was, is there already a list of candidates that are running that people can check out, or can we find that information on the website?
That information is available on the website now, and it's updated every day.
Nice, thank you.
And so I have a question, Daniel.
Yes.
So say you live in a ward different than the 3 open wards in 2020, that means you won't be voting for a council person, is that correct? This year?
Part of that is correct. You won't be if you don't live within wards 1, 3, and 5, you will not be voting for any of those council members, but you will be voting for the mayor who's elected at large. So everyone, regardless of the ward they live in, they get to vote for mayor.
Thank you.
No problem.
Daniel, this is Jose Rea. Quick question. So
Sure.
when did the change in numbers became effective? Because we used to be 1, but no longer. I think we're now 6. So you mentioned that on November 3rd there will be elections for Ward 1. Is that the new ward or the old ward?
That's the new Ward 1 that you see on the screen here, which is a part of the western side of Santa Ana.
Okay.
And that took effect
Daniel?
sometime in 2018.
Daniel,
Yes.
Daniel, this is Scott, and we're not seeing the map on the screen, just so you know. So we're not seeing the map of the western part of Santa Ana. We're not seeing the map of what Ward 1 is.
Okay, let me see what's.
And I'm going to mute my mic again. I apologize for jumping in.
Oh, that's fine.
Daniel, the screen that we see says more information, and it has a santa-ana.org. Okay, now we see the map. Daniel, thank you.
We have the map now.
Okay, it looks like there might be a delay here. Let's see.
Okay.
So Ward 1 is purple, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So it is 1, 3, and 5, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on?
I have a question, Jenna. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no, go ahead. Oh, no, go ahead.
But so Heninger Park neighborhood, I'm not sure, but it looks like we're still all 2. Yes, I'm guessing that rectangle is Heninger Park where the arrow is.
Okay, that's south of First Street, north of McFadden, east of Rate, and west of Bristol.
Oh no, that's not us. Our other boundaries are Flower and South Main.
I think you're on 4 now,
You're in
Janelle.
4.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Oh, I'm so glad I asked the question. So
Oh,
we're
yes.
4, completely 4, or I see some little orange there.
So I see the orange section where Ward 2 overlaps near Bishop Street and Shelton Street. So if
No,
you're
that's
east,
not Heninger Park.
the
So we're all blue. I think we're all 4.
It looks like one of our attendees has a question also, Lucinda Solorzano. Let's see if we can unmute her mic and maybe she can ask her question. Lucy, you're self-muted right now. If you want to ask your question, go ahead and unmute your mic. Otherwise, we'll have Daniel continue his presentation. So once again, Lucy Solorzano, you do have your hand raised, and so we're just trying to acknowledge if you do have a question, now would be a good time to ask.
I have a question.
sure, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So Madison Park is all 6 now then, right?
Madison Park is east of Main Street and
Yeah, so it's all 6. But who would be our representative now?
so right now, all of our council members, although they live in geographic wards, they all serve at large. So beginning in 2020, when we elect a Ward 1, Ward 3, and Ward 5 representative, they'll be elected by those wards, and the rest of the city council, including the mayor, will continue to serve at large. And all of our council members collectively serve serve for all of our residents. So we won't have any newly elected by district or by ward representatives for 2, 4, and 6 until November 2022.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think we're all surprised that things have changed, and although we knew they'd changed, we didn't realize how it affected us. That's how I
I see.
feel.
Okay, well, if it's helpful, in addition to the elections information, the ward reboundary is what we're calling it. That's also on the city clerk's office or clerk of the council office website. We have maps that you can look at. You can even enter your address in to double check to see which ward your residents will fall under, just to be sure. And we'll frequently
good.
keep that. We'll frequently keep that updated, and that's there for folks to see.
Thank you for that information.
Mhm. Would you like me to move on to the next section?
Are there any other questions pertaining to the elections or the new ward divisions? Anybody else have questions for Daniel about that subject?
I think we're ready for Daniel to move to the next part.
Okay, let's do that. So the next part is the city budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead with that then.
So I just Okay, at the July 7th City Council meeting, the Santa Ana City Council approved our fiscal year 2020-21 budget, which runs from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. What you see here on the screen is our general fund revenue budget. So the revenues show where the city gets its money from, where we receive funding for that. We then turn around, allocate, and spend on services, infrastructure, and this is, again, for our general fund. The general fund gives the city council the most discretionary authority, meaning that the city council can allocate these monies to anything that's a community benefit for Santa Ana, and there are no restrictions on these funds. So if you look at the pie graph here, you'll see that we receive a significant amount of our revenues from property tax, sales tax, and then a handful of other revenue sources. Our next slide is our general fund expenditures. So we take all these revenues, property tax, sales tax, and other revenue sources, and how do we spend it? Where does it go? So this pie chart takes a look at how we distribute or how we allocate our general fund dollars to our different departments. So you'll see our police department. We have funding for the fire department that we contract through with the Orange County Fire Authority, Parks and Recreation, Planning and Building, our different administration departments, our library, and more. And so where's the rest of our budget? In addition to our general fund, which is only one of the city's funds, we have other funding sources. We have enterprise funds, such as the Water Enterprise Fund, the Sanitation Fund. The way enterprise funds work is they are restricted to be used only in the same area in which they are collected. For example, the Water Enterprise Fund. Any revenues or money that we receive that fund the Water Enterprise Fund can only be used on water and water infrastructure. The same thing with sanitation, parking operations, and sewer. If we take a look at other sections of this graph, you'll see that we have the Capital Projects Fund that funds our public infrastructures like streets, traffic management. Restricted funds are things like grants that we receive from the federal government and the state government, things like community development block grants. We also receive gas tax funds, inclusionary housing funds, and again, those are restricted. So the city council is able to allocate these funds solely within their intended purpose. And combining our other funds, which is what you're seeing here, and our general fund, our total budget for the new fiscal year is approximately $670 million. For more information, go ahead.
Oh, hey, Daniel. Yeah, it looks like Janelle and Carla, it looks like Jose Rea has a question for you.
Okay. Jose, yes, please.
No, actually, I do not. I'm not just exploring all these buttons. Sorry.
Got it. I understand.
Good for you, Jose. That's okay. Thank you.
Yes, I understand.
I think Adolfo has a question.
Sure.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Adolfo.
Okay. It's for Daniel. Daniel,
hi.
on the first, hi. Thank you for presenting. The question I have is on the first slide of the revenue. I think my question is in that section right here in this one. Which part of the revenue comes from business, like industries, especially industries, and especially the ones located in the southeast and the southwest and part of the northwest side of the city? Is this tax, business tax, is that what they are contributing to the city budget?
So that depends. It depends on the specific type of tax that these businesses are paying. But if they're taxes and fees that they're paying to the city of Santa Ana, you'll see them somewhere on this slide here. So just glancing at this pie chart, I see a business tax revenue that we anticipate to collect for this whole year that totals 9.2 million. It's an estimate, but this is what we expect to receive based on our financial models and looking at our historical, what we call trends. How much business tax revenue have we received over time? And looking at our economic factors, how much do we anticipate to receive this year? So breaking
Daniel,
it down.
Thank
Go ahead.
you.
Scott, so the business tax though is just the business license, right? That's just like the business license fee that the businesses pay. So
I'd have to double check. Our budget on the website has a line item detail that will let us know what specifically is in each of these different sections of the pie chart, but I can check and get back to you.
I'm pretty sure that business tax is just the business license tax, that any business that's located in the city needs to pay kind of a nominal fee. It's Adolfo, to answer your question, it's not tied to their revenue or any sort of the nature of their business or anything like that, essentially.
Okay.
So I'll pass it back to Daniel so he can continue to answer your question, but that business tax part of the pie probably is not the part that you're curious about, Adolfo.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for clarifying, yes. All right.
Perhaps that may be how businesses pay, they pay sales tax and pay property tax, and we'll see that captured here in this pie chart. And then regarding neighborhood specific or area specific tax revenues, some of that information is confidential, and the city doesn't necessarily release tax information on specific businesses, for example. But what we do is we total that information and share it here as a summary.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are there any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so maybe we can.
I just wanted to get back to Carla and Janelle. This is Scott again. Just to familiarize you, with this platform, since we're all kind of learning, but you have a tab on your control panel that shows staff or attendees. So if you click on the attendees tab, you'll see who perhaps has their hand raised or who has a question. So right now, none of the attendees have a question or have their hand raised. But to the extent that they did, so for instance, Mr. Manny Escamilla, we see that you're attending the meeting. I know your microphone is muted, but can you activate your control and raise your hand? There he is. You see Manny raise his hand?
No, I don't, Scott. Like I see the panelists, the organizers.
But I don't see anybody else.
So under the attendees line, you should be able to separate the staff tab from the attendees tab. And if you click on the attendees tab, it opens up the list of attendees for your meeting, which is a different list than the staff for the meeting.
Oh, I'm not finding that.
And then Margarita and I can make a note to follow up with you guys to kind of review this in more detail. But I just thought that since we were having this conversation in the meeting, perhaps we could try and cover it, but it's okay. We'll cover
I'm only seeing the staff attendees. I don't know. I separated the menu, but I'm still not seeing anybody else.
Okay.
Which is not good.
When we have our debrief, we'll go over that and make sure that you're able to see all the functions that are necessary. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott. I also want to thank everyone else that's joining in. Thanks, y'all. I really thought it was just us 10. I'm very happy that there's more than just us, which is amazing. So thanks, and thank you for your patience too.
And I apologize for interrupting you guys so much, but we're back to Daniel, right? And he's going to be presenting information on evictions at this point. I'm going to mute my mic now.
Thanks, Scott. Okay. I'd like to quickly go over the city's eviction moratorium. The city manager just this past Thursday, July 23rd, extended the city's eviction moratorium for commercial and residential tenants through September 30th. The executive order extends this eviction moratorium, which states in part that tenants who are unable to pay their rent due to financial impacts associated with COVID-19 cannot be evicted from their unit. And what does this generally mean? Landlords cannot evict tenants due to non-payment of rent if the reason that the tenant could not pay that rent was directly associated with COVID-19. What are the requirements? How does that work? For residential tenants, they must notify in writing 7 days within their rent being due to their landlord that they are unable to pay due to COVID-19. Commercial tenants have 30 days. What are examples of COVID-19 financial impacts that can keep someone from paying their rent? Some examples are being sick with COVID-19 or caring for a household or family member who is sick with COVID-19, a layoff, loss of hours, or other income reduction resulting from business closure or other economic or employer impacts of COVID-19, compliance with any recommendations from a public health department to stay home, to self-quarantine, or to limit activity during the stay-at-home order, extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses associated with COVID-19, childcare needs and expenses, and partial or complete closure of a tenant's business related to COVID-19, and that's for commercial tenants. So some of frequent questions that our office receives: do tenants have to provide documentation supporting their inability to pay? Yes. Again, some of these examples can include a layoff or a termination notice, a claim for unemployment benefits, school district notifications, or other financial records. What do I do if I receive an eviction notice? Notify your landlord in writing about your inability to pay rent, and if you feel that you need to do so, consider seeking legal advice. What if my landlord initiates eviction proceedings? Tenants or their attorneys can raise the existence of the City of Santa Ana's eviction moratorium as a defense to non-payment of rent, if that's what the eviction is for. And in California, the courts have halted all eviction proceedings. So does this mean that I don't have to pay my rent during the moratorium? No. As a tenant, you're still required to pay rent. And once the moratorium is over, and our current date is September 30th, a tenant has up to 6 months to pay back any unpaid rent. And the landlord cannot charge late fees. So who's protected by the eviction moratorium? Both residential and commercial tenants, again, this is very key, who are unable to pay their rent due to financial impacts associated with COVID-19. And again, I see an error here, but our eviction moratorium is scheduled to expire on September 30th, 2020. Sorry about the typo. For more information, you can visit our website at santa-ana.org/COVID-19.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much. And so Janelle and Carla, I apologize to you that I double checked, and you actually will not, because you guys are considered panelists and not organizers, you don't actually have access to the questions that people ask, essentially.
Oh,
And so
interesting. Okay.
to the extent that you guys are interested in doing that, we can just sort of change your designation for future meetings so you can sort of see those. But what happens is it can be a lot of information basically all at one time. And so it sort of separates the responsibilities that way for people.
Okay.
And we
I
can
can
get
see
into that more later on. But I did see that Manny Escamilla has raised his hand, and
Okay.
perhaps he has a question. And so we would like to invite Manny to ask his question of Daniel Soto.
Yeah,
Manny,
please.
your mic is ready to go.
Cool, thank you. And you got me at just the right time when I was tuning in, so thanks, Scott. The I guess question that I had there is that we're getting some reports of family members, of renters being illegally evicted, even under the current moratorium. So I'm just wondering, like, how aware the city manager is, and if there's anything in place support-wise for these families that are still being threatened. I know the Tenants United folks have kind of been working on this a little bit more directly. But that is something that I've been hearing about at least, and know that I know that legally they can't do it, but there's kind of a lot of still threats going on in the community.
So to try to answer that question, we've had tenants, both impacted and unimpacted tenants, as well as different community organizer groups contact the city and specifically the city manager's office. And what we've been doing is really pushing a lot of this information to try to increase awareness of our eviction moratorium. And when folks require assistance, we are providing them with considerations to seek legal advice from organizations here in Santa Ana, such as the Public Law Center and others, to seek assistance. And our staff here in the city manager's office is available Monday through Thursday and alternating Fridays during business hours. So we always have a live person that's available to answer the phone. We also have some FAQs on the website, and again, we make ourselves available here in the city manager's office to answer folks' questions right on the spot, and to provide for informational purposes legal service providers in Santa Ana who may be able to assist them with their eviction questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Daniel. And Janelle and Carla, I just sort of see that it's like 7:05. And Daniel, that's your complete presentation, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
If there are any other questions, I just want to make sure that there's sufficient time for the team from Madison Park to talk about environmental justice and all that.
Yes, I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you so much, Daniel, for covering the information about elections, city budget, and residential and commercial evictions. That's all information that's very important and we are interested in. So thank you so much for joining us.
Janelle,
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Daniel and Janelle, before we move, can you also please clarify and confirm that the coverage of the moratorium also includes like people and families that are renting a room, that they are also protected as well?
Yes, it's for all residential and commercial tenants in Santa Ana.
Because they have also people have also reached out to me as well that landlords are what is called self-help eviction, are kicking people out. And is it also true, can you confirm or clarify that if a landlord is self-helping themselves and kicking a family out, could they call the cops to stop the eviction, or to not the eviction proceeding, but like removing their stuff, or pretty much being left out of their homes?
I don't know if I have enough information to answer that question, but I know that my understanding is that our police department does not get involved with eviction proceedings. But like I mentioned earlier, the courts have stopped processing or holding evictions proceedings. But I can find out more information about that and let you know.
Yes, please. Can you clarify? My understanding is that only a sheriff could remove your belongings from your home or the room that you're renting, and not a landlord. And if that does happen, then you could call the cops and the cops could stop it and ask the landlord to go through the proper proceedings for an eviction.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. And Daniel will get back to us, and he's really good at that. And we'll get that information back out to your group. Our friend Lucy Solorzano has her hand raised again. So let's just try one more time with Lucy. Lucy, you're self-muted. So if you have a question or have your hand raised, Daniel is going once, going twice, and he's going to be
Yes. So this time I do have my hand raised. I tried to unmute myself on my computer and it wasn't possible. So I'm on my phone now. But I actually had a question in regards to the boundaries. So given that, I don't know if that's appropriate to ask or not. I know you guys have moved on.
No, it's fine. Go ahead, Lucy. Go ahead.
Okay. Just a quick question is that, the census is coming out. I know it's been delayed for a year. When the census results come back, will they be redrawn?
They may be redrawn for the 2022 election. Typically, when a city has district-based elections, the boundaries are drawn every 10 years and correspond with updated census information. So depending on how significant the census data is, the change in the census data from 2010 to 2020, the city council may consider redrawing these boundaries for the next 10 years.
Just another question in regards to the boundaries. Wasn't this boundary redraw due to a lawsuit?
The ward reboundary was not completed in response to a litigation matter. The city.
Daniel, this
Yes?
is Scott. I apologize. I just don't want to contradict you, but yeah, there was some litigation. Yeah, there was actually some litigation.
From what I recall, the city was approached regarding the California Voting Rights Act and a potential violation of the California Voting Rights Act. I am not sure of any litigation proceedings that took place, but in response to the question of the California Voting Rights Act and to make sure that we are not violating it, the city did redraw those lines.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. And Lucy, I apologize, but we need to move over to our next agenda item.
No, that's fine.
All right, so it's back to you, Janelle, to introduce the team from Madison Park Neighborhood. And thank you very much, Daniel Soto. We really appreciate your presentation. Great job. Thank you.
Yes, thank you again, Daniel. All right, so now we're going to move on to our topic of environmental justice. And presenting, we have Jose Rea and Adolfo Sierra from Madison Park Neighborhood Association. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to begin the presentation. I'm not hearing.
Muted. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
For having us from Madison Park, and Jose and Leonel, they're going to be presenting. Mainly Leonel.
Leonel will be presenting instead of you, Adolfo?
Yes, he has the PowerPoint ready for us.
Oh, perfect.
And Leonel, we're making you the presenter right now. Leonel, we've made you the presenter. And I'm going to mute my microphone now.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Leonel Flores. I'm a lifelong resident of Santa Ana. I've lived here my whole life. I went to Madison Elementary, and now I currently serve as a community organizer for MPNA Green, which is our nonprofit that runs all our programs for the community. And I'm here to present to you the work we've been doing for about a year and a half on environmental justice, and now we're focusing on how we're trying to have it implemented in the Santa Ana General Plan. So here are the goals that we have that we want to discuss. Oops. Can everyone see the goals? Okay. So basically,
Yes,
the first problem.
we can see the presentation goal slide, first problem, second problem, third problem. That's the slide we can see.
Okay. The how do you say it? Because on my screen I have the controls for the webinar that doesn't pop up.
So
Leonel,
Lionel,
hi,
we
this
need
is
your
Margarita,
slide.
and
Uh-huh.
they don't. The control
Okay.
panels are separate from your screen presentation.
Okay. So yeah, these are the problems that we're facing as a community. So the first one is poor air quality and poor health in the community. The second problem, which is in 2018, a new law passed called SB 1000 to address the root causes of pollution that are affecting our communities. The third problem, which is the lack of outreach in environmental justice communities, which we'll be discussing later on what those communities are and where they're located. And then the fourth problem, which we see as a problem, is that we think the city needs more time to hear the community and actually implement SB 1000 effectively. So here's a brief history on the project. So in May of 2017, some residents of our neighborhood here in Madison Park, they received a letter from the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and basically it was informing the residents that a company called Brasstech was requesting a permit to emit chemicals into the air within 1,000 feet from Madison Elementary and Kennedy Elementary. The problem with this, though, was that all the notices were in English only, and we're a community that's predominantly Hispanic. A lot of people are only Spanish speaking or only Spanish, they only read in Spanish. So that was a big problem. So because of that, a lot of the residents came to Madison, the school, and to us at MPNA to ask us what the letter was about, what was going on. And so in September, we reached out to Councilmember Sarmiento, and he contacted the South Coast Air Quality Management District on our behalf to find out more about what the problem was and what this permit was. Once Councilmember Sarmiento wrote to them, the South Coast Air Quality Management District responded back to him, and basically what they let him know was it wasn't just one company that had a permit to release chemicals, but there was actually a corridor of 42 industries between First Street on the north, Warner on the south, Standard on the west, and Grand on the east that had these types of permits to emit chemicals into the air. And that you could see in this map, which shows all the different sites that have permits to emit these chemicals. So basically, under another new law called AB 617, we requested funds to monitor the air quality in our neighborhood. We didn't focus just specifically on our neighborhood, though. We focused on a couple of the neighborhoods that were right next to this corridor, which include the Madison Park neighborhood, Pacific Park neighborhood, Delhi neighborhood, Lyon neighborhood, and also part of the Lacey neighborhood. So in September of 2018, we received the funds by the California Air Resource Board to start our project. The California Air Resource Board is the agency that monitors the air quality across the state and make sure that policies are implemented. So then once we got the funding in late 2018 and early 2019, we had our first and second environmental justice forums in the community. This is when we began to outreach to the different community members. One of these presentations, I believe, was at Delhi, and the other one was at Roosevelt Walker Community Center. where we asked people who would be interested in learning more about this problem and potentially interested in joining our efforts. We gave them more information about what we're doing. So after the 2 community forums in the early spring of 2019, we started our environmental justice and community service learning project, which was called Comunidad Unida Aire Limpio, which stands for Community United Clean Air, or also known as our Qual Committee, which is what I'm in charge of and I help organize. The Qual Committee is a resident-driven steering committee of about 34 residents. We have 14 high school students from around the area and 20 residents as well from the area, and they're basically working on this issue of environmental justice. The first half of the year that we worked with them, we focused on what is environmental justice, how it affects us, and then also what is public policy, how to become more engaged in the community, and then speaking up more for the community because we're trying to create the next leaders for our neighborhood. In October, some of the work we've done, and early October, the Quad group, they presented at our walkathon. Then at the end of October, Jose and Miguel, one of our former employees, presented at Century High School about the problem we have. And at that point, we recruited 5 more high school students to join the committee. And then December 19th, we had a forum on environmental justice where we invited the California Air Resources Board to present on AB 617 and also talk about SB 1000, how they came to become a law and how they pertain to us. So now we're going to talk about what is SB 1000. So SB 1000 is a pretty new law, and it's basically the law that our work revolves around right now. Basically, this law requires that cities and counties with disadvantaged communities to incorporate environmental justice into their general plans. The California Environmental Protection Agency identifies communities as disadvantaged based on 3 different criteria. And the 3 different criteria are high levels of environmental pollution, high rates of unemployment, and high rent burdens. And then California law defines environmental justice as the fair treatment of people of all races, cultures, and income with respect to the development, adoption, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. SB 1000 also requires meaningful engagement of communities into the decision-making process. So now we're going to city planning and environmental justice. So if you take a look at this map, let me move some things around. If you take a look at this map, this map was actually produced by the city, and it shows which communities are designated as disadvantaged communities, also known as environmental justice communities. The reason these 2 terms are interchangeable is because since there's a negative connotation to disadvantage, instead they try to make it positive since we're working for a positive change. And now the term is environmental justice communities, but in reality, these are communities that are disadvantaged and are experiencing negative impacts, either from diesel emissions, poor air quality, groundwater contamination, high levels of traffic, industrial cleanup sites, like I mentioned earlier, high rent rates, low socioeconomic status, low birth weight in infants, and linguistic isolation. So a lot of monolingual communities that don't necessarily speak English. So if you look at this map, which I'm going to zoom in on the next page, these are all the environmental justice communities, and overlapped is the different neighborhoods. So The environmental justice communities cover 17 census tracts, but it actually affects 21 neighborhoods. And basically, every neighborhood listed here: Artesia, Pilar, Cedar Evergreen, Centennial, Central City, Cornerstone Village, Delhi, Downtown, Flower Park, French Court, French Park, Heninger Park, Lacey, Logan, Lion Street, Madison Park, Memorial Park, Pacific Park, Pico Lowell, Riverview West, Sandpoint, and Willard neighborhood are all disadvantaged communities. So that means all 21 of these communities are affected by high levels of rent, low socioeconomic statuses, and they have high levels of contamination and environmental pollution. So that's the major problem. If you take a look at this map, this is the current zoning map under the current general plan for the city of Santa Ana. If you look on the right at this purple area, all these purple areas, that's all industrial. This little green square is Madison Park. Madison Park right here. And then I believe Heninger is right here, west of Maine. So we're all being affected by this industrial area. As you can see, there's a giant purple, but we only have 1, 2, 3, 4 little squares of parks. All these blue spots are schools that are either in or next to these industrial areas that have permits to release chemicals into the air. If you look at this map, which is provided by the California EPA, this is Santa Ana in the circle. If you look at the southeast region where we all live in Santa Ana, we have the darkest orange in the city and almost in the county aside from Anaheim. And basically we're in the 80th, between the 80th and 100th percentile, which means we're in the top 10 to 20% of worst air quality in the county. And well, actually, since this is the state map, we're actually in the top 10, 20% of worst air quality in the state, which is also another factor that designates us as a disadvantaged community. So looking at those maps, there's an overlap, Southeast Santa Ana with the air quality, all the industries in Southeast Santa Ana, and then this big old purple area as well, which is a large portion of Southeast Santa Ana. So now this is what it actually looks like in real life. So if you take a look here, this is the railroad tracks on Standard and Heninger. So to the left of it, we have all these apartments, so there's a dense population here. There's a lot of people living here. And on the other side of these tracks, this is where Brass Tech would be, all the other industries. But then down this way, Kennedy's right next to it as well. A little on the other side of these apartments is Madison. And that's the same thing with the other 7 schools that are in this area. That railroad track from the previous picture, this is what it actually looks like on the railroad track. So our committee actually did a walking tour of this industrial corridor, and this is what it actually looks like. The city is gone and cleaned it out, but then it'll eventually end up looking like this again. And this is a problem that we constantly see reoccurring in our neighborhoods. So like I mentioned, this is housing over here and literally industrial, all separated by 2 little fences and a railroad track. These are some of our committee members in front of another location. This location is being cleaned up because they found chemicals in the soil, and it's literally right next door to a restaurant known as El Tapatio. And it has also operated as a church while actually before it was cleaned up. So people were being allowed in there to worship when the ground was contaminated. So yeah, it's not really safe, and it doesn't make sense if these chemicals are in our community where we're being exposed to them. So this is kind of just to put it in a real life perspective, some of the work we've done. And then some of the effects that it can bring, so asthma, bronchitis, lung effects to your lungs. It could bring heart disease, premature death. So basically every day we're breathing this poor air quality. You might not notice the effects right now, but breathing in bad air actually reduces your lifespan. It could also damage your cells, different types of cancers. Now they're actually even finding a link to COVID-19. We attended a seminar last week by the American Lung Association, and they compared the severity of COVID-19 between African communities, so between African Americans living in the US and then communities in Africa that do not live in close proximity to industries. And they noticed that the African American communities that were living next to these industries were having higher severity of COVID-19. And in the communities in Africa, although COVID-19 was present, the severity wasn't as severe because they weren't next to these industries. All that is still new, but these connections are starting to be made. And another thing we mentioned earlier, low birth rate in infants. So what is the general plan? So the city's general plan was actually implemented in 1982. So it's been about 40 years since it's been updated. In 1998, some of the elements for the city plan were updated. And in March of 2014, the city developed their plan to start updating the general plan, which is why we're here, to make sure this issue is addressed. Because as we mentioned earlier, because of SB 1000, this is something the city has to do. So the updated general plan will provide long-term policy direction to guide the physical development, quality of life, economic health, and sustainability of the Santa Ana community through 2045. So that means that this next general plan is going to be here for a long time. It's going to affect us for the next basically 25 years. So if we want a better quality of life, we need to do the work now and make sure the city, helps improve our communities, because it's not just Madison Park, it's not just Pacific Park, it's not just Delhi, it's those 21 communities, including Heninger Park, that are being affected. Let's see, there we go. So because of this, so from this, we come to our third problem, and it's that we haven't really been noticing the city has outreach much. So we sent this letter basically to the city council, the mayor, and the planning and building agency, basically, telling them, it's state law that they have to work on this, and they have to implement policy that will improve the neighborhood. So we sent this in April of this year, and from this letter, about 2 weeks later, the city published this flyer right here on the right. And basically what they told us is that there isn't any concrete policy because they're focusing on five core values. 3 of them are listed here. So they say environmental justice falls under health, but the thing is, we want to see actual policy, like what they plan to do. The other thing we noticed is they actually just copied all of this from the California EPA. So we're not sure how much time they actually spent on this, or if they literally just copied and pasted it. So to us, it doesn't seem like they spent much time on it, which is what we're asking for, that they actually do their due diligence and spend their time on effective policy. So they also shared this map with us. of the work they've done. So in 2015, 2016, according to the city, that's when the first conversation started on the general plan. In May is when they released the previous flyer. In June, they were supposed to release a presentation that showed the draft goals and policies related to environmental justice, but they actually did not go as planned. The video did not come out until July. The draft goals, they told us, is like the original draft that they have, but like I forgot the word for it, like a pre-draft, but we actually haven't received like a draft of the general plan. And then in July, there were supposed to be outreach meetings for people to learn more and ask more questions, like it says. But so those meetings are actually this Friday and this Saturday. And that's the reason we're here, because we hope you'll all be able to join us and, asking the city to do what's right, to actually spend their time on this, listen to the community for feedback. And even though they released this whole map in May, they barely notified the community about these meetings last week. So less than a 2-week notice to prepare for these meetings. And then their plan is adopt the general plan by the end of this year. So they're pretty much trying to rush through it. So what are our working goals? Our goals at MPNA, and hopefully for you guys as well, is basically we want to identify what we want to see improved in our community in regards to environmental justice, so we can improve the quality of life, improve the air quality, and other environmental injustice issues that are going on in our community. Our second goal, I believe there's still time. You could submit public comment to the city at newgeneralplan@santaana.org, or you can call and leave a voicemail as well to give your opinions, give your suggestions on what you think can be done to improve our neighborhoods, our environment, the air quality, things like that. And our most important goal right now is demand more time for comments and effective policy change. Because once these meetings pass on Friday and Saturday, if they say this is it, there will be no more time to submit comments and to give our suggestions and for us to give our input, So if there's no more time to give comments and input, these two can't really happen, This is an issue not too many people are aware about in the community. Although we've been working on it, we're not too sure how the other neighborhoods, there's 21 other neighborhoods that are affected by, or 20 other neighborhoods that are affected by this. So what we're asking you right now is, when you submit your comment, ask them for more time, ask them to extend these meetings down the line. So, so the communities outside of Madison Park that are affected by this, that are environmental justice communities, so they can learn more about what's going on, and then they can voice their concerns, because we've been working on this. We know what we want to see for Madison Park, but we also want the rest of the community to be involved. And that's something that's part of SB 1000. It's a state law now. Meaningful community engagement is not just the city saying, hey, we're going to do this. We need to get the community involved and speak up about what we want to see change and what we want to see improve. So I think I got 2 slides left. Let's see. So the next steps, if you can join us on Friday and Saturday, those are going to be the 2 city meetings where they're going to focus solely on environmental justice in the general plan. Friday, it's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. and Saturday from 10 to 12 p.m. And like I said, if you can't attend, we encourage you, submit your comment to the city, ask them for more time. If you don't think you have enough awareness about the problem, same thing, ask for more time, because like I said, this general plan is going to be in effect for the next 25 years, and it's going to affect our quality of life for 25 years. So this right here in red, that's the link to go register. We're going to be there as well on Friday and Saturday. And yeah, if you're not following us already, our quad committee has been doing an information campaign on our Instagram and Facebook. So if you're on social media, Facebook, you can give us a follow there. If you have any questions, I'm always available through email or phone, and I could answer questions now if we still have time.
Thank you, Leonel. We've unmuted, so Janelle and Carla, your mics should be open, as well as Adolfo and Jose. And so if you're having any difficulty unmuting, just let me know, but I just want to open it up for Q&A and discussion at this point.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions? Can you see any hands raised, Scott?
Let me check.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I wanna ask you, all of you, all the attendees, and also the panelists, to call the council members, their own council members for the different neighborhoods and the wards. Call them up. They planning to vote on it. They're gonna put it on for voting on the planning. We want to ask them to vote to hold and give it more time. So don't let it pass it just like that. I think we are in a crucial time frame, and we want them to not to rush it. Give us the opportunity to comment. Give us the opportunity to participate in this process.
Thank you, Adolfo. I'm
Leonel.
curious.
Hi,
Yep.
I'm sorry, Janelle. This is Scott. Leonel, that was a great presentation. We're gonna, I'm gonna just make Margarita the presenter right now so that she can share her screen. She just wanted people to become familiar with the general plan page on the city website. Margarita, I know your mic is unmuted as well, but we're gonna make you the presenter so you can share your screen.
Thank you.
I have a question, Margarita, real quick.
Yes.
That kind of folds into before you talk about the general plan. Adolfo is saying that we need more time. I believe we need more time to for the environmental justice aspect of the general plan. But are we also asking to hold the general plan to give more time if the environmental justice aspect is able to get more time? Will that also be the whole general plan will slow down in being adopted? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds like some of the feedback, that we've been hearing is to hold off, but I think our observations is that a lot of, let's say, the meat, right? The meat of the general plan, which are the policies, the specific actions and programs are going to be implemented that respond to the elements, which is sort of the big picture, what each city is required. There will be a subsequent opportunity for the community to be involved in shaping all of that. And so I know just in conversations with our team, we've known like we need to remind people of that too. But yes, obviously it is the council's decision, right? If they, want to change the timeline to extend it. And I think that's what, folks from Madison Park and some of the other community organizations have been raising. So yeah, I think right now there's more awareness. I think cities had a decision, right, to adopt a environmental justice element on its own, or to choose to integrate it, with part of the entire process. So our city has chosen, instead of having it standalone, it's to be incorporated with the different priorities. But that means having policies, having programs, specific implementation actions that respond to environmental justice across the spectrum, right? It's not just it's standalone. So that was the thinking. And so, yeah, we've received a lot of questions recently about, okay, so which document do we look at, right, to be up to date? What's the most current document? So I just wanted to point people out to the general plan page. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I am, this is the general Santa Ana or general plan page, and it's where a lot of different documents have been placed, including, and thank you, Lanel and the Madison Park team for sharing about the upcoming meeting and about your, your dedication over the years and some of the grant funding that you've received to do some of the air quality neighborhood impact kind of work. So I think right now, because environmental justice is sort of a hot topic, and it's been for the southeast part of town for quite a while, right here, under environmental justice policy framework, these are some potential actions that are still, being explored. And I think that's part of the question, that some of the groups that represent environmental justice advocacy are raising. So here, you can get just a better idea about, how environmental justice is being incorporated in some of these areas. And so I would just refer folks to review that, just to get familiar if you haven't. We also, I know, Janelle, you had brought up about the Historic Resources Commission. So there's a meeting tomorrow where the draft historic preservation element is going to be presented and talked about. So that would be definitely a meeting to tune in. It will be made available on the city's meetings webpage, where the council meetings are. It will be accessible there, so you'll be able to listen to it. And I'm sure after the meeting, it will be posted. So
I think that's going to happen Thursday, Margarita.
Correct. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a day ahead of myself. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, comment
Thursday,
if I
July
may.
30th at 4:30. Thanks so much, Janelle.
That's okay.
Now, may I have a comment, please?
Yes.
So in reference to the environmental justice issue, I've been in Santa Ana for 35 years or longer. I'm Jose Rea, and I've served as a treasurer for the Madison Park Neighborhood Association, and I've been here in the neighborhood for 22 years. I didn't know that there was a industrial corridor with so many companies that require special permits to pollute the air. Okay, I didn't know until 2017 when the moms started coming to Madison neighborhood and Madison school with this issue. So two of the questions that came up is like, okay, if you give a permit to Brass Tech to release this amount of chemicals, what is the cumulative effect of all these companies releasing the pollutants into the air, and what is it that we're breathing? We're working with a pulmonologist from UC Irvine that is finding out that the kids in the neighborhood, the asthma is more frequent and is more serious than compared to other kids that go to hospitals at UC Irvine. They stay there longer, they miss most schools, and they require more medication to bring the asthma under control. And I think it's related to this. So what we're doing is beginning to take samples of this. So this is a matter of life and death for us, in the sense that if you live in Irvine and you live in Costa Mesa, you live less years because you live in Santana in 92707, 92703, 92704. And so Santa Ana is the city of missed opportunities. I disagree with Margarita. We shouldn't wait for next year or 2 years when they're going to revise the zone. We need to seize this opportunity, let these people in the city, our elected officials and the city staff, know they need to address environmental justice, pollution, and the city now, because it's required by law. Senate Bill 1000 says you have to have it, and not only have to have it in a very superficial way. You need to address the root causes of pollution in the city. What is the root causes of the pollution? Is the freeways. We cannot change the freeways. We cannot change, but where we can take advantage and reduce the number of industries that require the special permits. We need to take advantage of that and make sure that that is written in the general plan. Because if we don't do it now, we won't see it. We won't happen until my kids. I will be gone in 25 years, and we're gonna keep on breathing the same air.
Thank you, Jose. I can see that your colleague Lionel has some comment to make also, Lionel.
Yeah, one other comment I want to make in regards to the question of if it'll halt the whole the general plan as a whole. I'm not sure if it will or not, but if it does, either way, I think it should. The reason being is because I feel like they're trying to rush a lot of things through to avoid environmental justice, not just specifically like, let's say, in East Side Santa Ana, but also particularly in the South Main corridor, because I live closer to the South Main corridor than the industrial industry. But they're trying to change the zoning there as well. And environmental justice isn't just air pollution, water pollution, ground pollution. It's also like high density traffic, and things like that. So the thing is, let's say in the South Main corridor, they're trying to change things to, instead of business, to mixed use. So mixed use would be business and housing. So they're bringing more housing, more traffic, more people into an area that's already full of people, full of cars with poor air quality. So it's like, the things that they're trying to pass, it's kind of contradictory. So all we're asking for right now, as they put a pause, give more time for them to actually do something that will improve the community.
You're right, Lionel. That's correct. And also, as you know, we're going to have elections in November. So they try to rush it before the next election. So I don't believe this should be rushed for political reasons. It should be well planned and well written for the whole community, for the implementation, the responsible implementation of the SB 1000. And we're working with the Environmental Law Clinic from UCI, MPNA. Madison Park is a client. So they representing us. And we really working really hard to have the city council and the mayor to respond to a couple of letters, the one that we sent in April and one that we sent recently, maybe a week ago, actually a week ago. And we're waiting for a response, a formal response. So as we go, we would like to invite you, everyone from these communities, affected communities, to voice their concerns and ask the city council members and mayor to vote no if they put in for voting, not to vote for this to pass, and be responsible with the people that they represent. So that's what we're asking you today. Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you. So I just want to, this is Margarita again. I wanted to thank the Madison Park Neighborhood Association for, shedding some light about the work that you're doing, the advocacy that you're making, because, a takeaway for us, as staff is that, you're looking for more comprehensive solutions, and you're concerned about the missed opportunity, about not incorporate or not thinking this through, or not thinking about it comprehensively and keeping in mind a broader context of environmental justice and what that means for us, in the city, as residents, as businesses. I think that's what I'm taking away from your presentation. So I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Janelle, for the time, for allowing us to be part of the presentation tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Margarita, and Leonel. Excellent job, man.
Thank you.
I
Scott, thank
really
you for
admire Madison. Thank you for sharing your intelligence with us.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you for insight. And your approach, your research, it's amazing. I can't even begin to catch up personally.
There's a lot of work to be done, and we do it.
It's okay. Like I said, I'm always available. And my information is all there. And like I said, I'm also a resident from here, from Santa Ana. I've actually met Carla a few times. So if you ever need a question or answered or want to learn more about what we're working on, we're here.
I appreciate that.
Usually,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tisha Pilar
And
as well.
I do plan to reach out to my city council people and the mayor. Did we have a question, Scott?
Yeah, I think that I know you're getting to the point, you're getting close to closing out the meeting. And so
Yeah.
Janelle and Carla, I just wanted to make you aware that Daniel Soto had a quick announcement to make before you adjourn the meeting.
All righty. Okay.
Are we ready for that, or yeah?
Is it time for that? All right.
Just real quick, is there any questions, Scott, from the other participants, the ones that we cannot see?
No, I don't see any new questions.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any new questions. I would, since I have my microphone unmuted though, I would like to reiterate just some comments that Margarita made. I would like to compliment the team from the Madison Park neighborhood on their presentation, the thoroughness of it. And also, I can't speak on behalf of Margarita, but I can tell you that she and I have both, observed firsthand the disconnect, and some of the problems with the communication associated with the city's big picture objectives, associated with this general plan update, and how it's being received in the community. And, that we're hearing through many different channels the same message that you have shared tonight, which is a very genuine, heartfelt concern that there's just not enough time is being allowed for people to express themselves and to share information, which is very personal and significant to them, because it affects the health and the well-being of their family, as well as the long-term health and well-being of our community. And so people, we're hearing this through a variety of channels. And so I just want to reassure you that Margarita and I are hearing it loud and clear. We are communicating that directly to the administration of the city, that there's in fact a matter here that needs to be reconsidered by the administration of the city. And I want to just compliment UCI. Adolfo mentioned the letter. I did see the letter to the mayor and the city council. It was an excellent letter that was very thorough. And, I think on a staff level, Margarita and I are really hopeful that that there will be additional time allowed so that we can actually get this right, and we can be as thorough as possible and have the best possible environmental justice policies, and have people, our residents, feel that they were included and that they were a part of it, and that they can continue to work on this moving into the future. That, I think, is really important. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I think we're going to turn it over to
Go ahead, Daniel.
All right, thank you so much. I just wanted to make one quick announcement to invite you all this Friday, July 31st. We will be hosting a virtual game of Sensoteria. It's a play on the word census and loteria, a traditional Mexican bingo type game. We'll be giving away $100 gift cards to 10 winners, and the event will be broadcast live on CTV Channel 3, ATV Uverse Channel 99, and on our YouTube page. If you're interested and you want to pick up a tabla or a card to participate in the game, you can pick up your cards Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday at Santa Ana City Hall, Memorial Park Pool, the Santa Ana Senior Center in downtown Santa Ana, and for curbside pickup at the Santa Ana Public Library here in the Civic Center. And for more information, you can visit our website at santa-ana.org/2020 census.
Thank you, Daniel. I just wanted to let the group know that we had over 500 people playing this game 2 weeks ago. And so
Wonderful.
There was a lot of education. People learned a lot about the census through the loteria format, essentially. There were lots of informative questions and graphics. We had families and parents talking with their kids about the significance of the different facets of the census. And so we're hoping to get an equally significant amount of participation. I think Daniel mentioned, but there were prizes. So there were 10 $100 gift certificate prizes for people to participate. So obviously that helped motivate people, but it's very, very educational. And so with that, I just want to pass it back to Janelle. If there are any other comments anybody else would like to make, otherwise we can call it a wrap tonight.
All right, do we have any other comments?
Yes, do we know when the next meeting will be? Our
No
next setting of
comment, Janelle. Carla, thank you very much for coming.
If it wasn't for these important topics, we usually go dark in July. There's usually no meetings in the summer, but you know, there's always these important things that do come up. So when do you want to have a next meeting, Carla?
I would say maybe, I guess we could skip a month if you feel comfortable with that.
All right, we'll talk about it between ourselves. I want to thank everybody who tuned in, and we'll keep you posted about our next meeting. And please contact your officials about what you think about the environmental justice and the general plan and where you think we should be going now that we have a lot of new information to build on. So.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. This is
Thank you, everyone.
Scott,
Thank you.
and I'm going to close this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.
Right.